Okay, for this lesson here, I'm going to go over the basics of how to add a realistic muzzle flash. Now, a lot of you may have done muzzle flashes in Premiere, which is a very basic way of doing it, but I want to show you a way to do it in After Effects. It definitely takes a little more work, but the result is much better. So I'm just going to create a new composition here in After Effects. And I'll just use the defaults here. I'm going to get these changed anyway. So I need to bring in some footage. Now, if you go into the common drive under Video Production 11, and in our special effects reel here, we have a folder called In-Class Lessons. And the one I'm going to use here is called Gunshot Plate. A plate is just kind of the basic footage before any special effects get put in. So I'm going to drag Gunshot Plate in here, and it'll import it nicely. And then I want to base a new composition on this settings here, which is 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames a second. It looks to be about 8 seconds long. So I'm just going to drag this gunshot plate onto my new composition button down here. Click it, and there we go. So now I've got this nice composition called Gunshot Plate, and it's got the picture of Josh here with a gun. Now, as I scrub through this, you can see that at certain points he pulls the trigger, in which case we want to have a muzzle flash come out of the gun. Now he does it 3 times, so basically I'm going to go to the first one here, and I use the page up and page down keys in After Effects, and what that does is frame by frame. So you can kind of see right about there he starts to squeeze the trigger, and you can even see the barrel move a little bit there. So this is done at 2:03. Now I've already looked at the times when these gunshots happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write them up here. You don't have to do this, but that way you can actually use them, save you some time. So he makes these shots at 2:03, at 3:21, and at 5:13. So we'll use those in a little bit here. So now we know when we have to put a muzzle flash in. So now we have to, have to get some muzzle flashes. If you go into the common drive here for Walnut Grove, and you go into video production, and you go into the audio and video resources, we have a folder called Special Effects. And in here, a couple years ago, we bought the Action Essentials pack. And this is just a great collection of everything you could ever imagine for an action film. Everything from explosions to debris flying, sparks, glass shattering, and of course our muzzle flashes. Now it's a little weird to navigate these because you've got all the actual files in here. You can see 1 through 20, and inside there's a whole bunch of footage. But when you're just previewing them, you need to go into the previews first. And it's repetitive. So you see the same folders, but these are the ones you can actually see a little bit better. So I'm going to go into my muzzle flashes, and I can see what they look like. Now, if they don't look like that for you, hold down the Control key and use the wheel on the mouse. By default, it might look like this. Actually, it might even look like this for you, which doesn't help you all that much. But if you hold down the Control key and use the wheel, you can get little thumbnails. And so I look to see what these will look like, and then there's all sorts of them. There's automatic fire, there's ones that look like they're coming at you, and then there's the ones from the side. I'm just going to use, number 16 here. So I could double click it, get an idea of what it looks like. It goes very quick. You can see a little bit of puff of smoke, and I like that. So muzzle flash 16. So now what I have to do is actually go back and not be in the previews, but instead get it from the actual footage here. So I'm going to go to muzzle flashes, and I'm going to find muzzle flash 16, and I'm going to drag that in to After Effects. And if I double click it, there it is, and I can kind of go through, and you can see it's just a 1 frame with the little flash there, and then a little bit of smoke puff there. Altogether, I think it's 15 frames. Okay, back to the composition. So now all I'm going to do is just drag in the muzzle flash right above Josh. And I don't see it anywhere. That's because I'm currently at about 2 seconds, but the muzzle flash is actually over here. So this is how I can move my clips in Premiere, and you can see as I move it, eventually it'll show up. So I know that I want it to go at 2:03 from what we calculated already. So at 2:03, there it is, set over there, I'm just going to take the muzzle flash and line it up. So this is right at the perfect time when I should get that muzzle flash. So now what I can do is, I can resize it a little bit. If you really want to get fancy, you could do what's called a corner pin effect on it, and that would actually change the angle, because you can kind of see the gun's facing more towards the screen, but the muzzle flash looks like it's coming off the side, but that's getting pretty detailed, so I'm just going to leave it flat like that. Most people make muzzle flashes too small the first time they do them, okay? And if you actually look at a Hollywood film or a television show, the muzzle flash is quite large. Because it's only on there for one frame, you really want it to be obvious. So I'm going to do a nice large one there, about the size of the gun maybe, and line it up. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a second one, because he does 3 shots. So I'm just going to select the muzzle flash here and hit Control D, and it duplicates it. So now I've got another one. And this one, I'll just take the time indicator to 3:21. And again, I'm looking right over here. And I'll just take my second flash and put it right there. And I might have to move it a little bit, although Josh stays pretty still in this clip, so it makes it easy. And then I'm going to duplicate it one more time. And this one will go at 5:13. And I'll just drag that over like that. Okay, now when I play this, hopefully it's not going to take too long to render here. And it might. When I play it, you're going to see a decent job. I mean, this is so basic right now, but basically he's going to shoot, and every time he pulls the trigger, I get that muzzle flash and a little puff of smoke. The basics are there. However, I want to add a little more. You can do that in Premiere, and that's more of a basic level. Now, the reality is, if you were to shoot a gun and there were to be a muzzle flash like that, that's an explosion of light. So you'd actually get some light appearing in different areas. It would reflect on your face a little bit. It'd probably reflect on the background. So let's put that in there. I'm just going to turn off the time codes there. All right. Now, to do this properly, what we're going to do is we're going to take the original image of Josh here, and I'm going to duplicate it. So now I have 2, right? So you can see I've got 2 that I'm working with there. And I need to change the mode. Okay, this is the blending mode of the top one. So right now the mode is normal. Now, if you don't have the normal mode available right now, right-click anywhere up here in this toolbar, like right where it says Parent, right-click, go to Columns, and make sure that Modes is on. So I'm going to take this top one, and I'm going to change it to Add. And it totally blows out the colors. You know, there's all these different blend modes. There's Subtract, and, you know, linear light, hard light, color dodge, all these different ways. I'm just going to use Add. It works really well for this. So the colors are very bright. Now, we've already done a little bit of work with masking, and as you know, when you use the pen tool in After Effects, whatever you draw, it keeps that area and it masks everything else out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask out the areas that I think need to have some glow. And if you just look at the mouse right now, I'm going to make some glow kind of up here on the screen. I think there should be a little bit of glow on his face, maybe a little bit on his arm, and maybe a little on the other arm as well. So make sure that you are selecting the top layer of the gunshot here. Okay, and a lot of people will mix this up. You got to make sure the top layer of these 2 is on Add and the other one's on Normal. So I select the second one, I go to my pen tool up top, and I'm just going to do a really simple click, click, click. I'm going to go right to the edge of the screen, click, click, click. And I'll just kind of trace out the gun barrel a little bit and finish it. So now I've masked it out, and it kind of looks weird right now, but I do have that bright area. The reason it looks so weird is because the edge is so hard. It's this really rigid line, and it shouldn't have that. It should actually feather out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to that top layer where I put a mask on and open up my different effects. So I open it up with that button, and now you can see I have a mask on it. Okay, I have mask 1. Now, I can also adjust this mask at any time if you want to make it larger or anything, so really easy, just grab one of those yellow squares. But these are all the options for mask 1. When I open it up, I have the path, I have the feather, I have opacity. I'm going to increase the feather, and I'm going to increase it quite a bit. And as I increase it, it softens the edges a little bit, which is a little more realistic of how light would interact with the background. I mean, I'm going to put it, I don't know, 300 maybe? That looks kind of cool. So that's before and after. If you think that's a little too much, you could even lower the opacity a bit. You know, it's really up to you. You decide. I'm going to keep it at 100 just for simplicity.